Hey, good day, everyone, and welcome to Unity Through Past Traumas. What you can't do alone, we can do together by sharing our life stories. I have a very special guest on tonight who's an energy healer and an embodiment coach. She's healed herself of multiple chronic issues and has used the same techniques to heal herself, which she is going to share about today. She lives in Akron, Ohio, I think, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm happy. Okay. I'm super excited to finally have us joined together in a video conference here. But Monique Hayes, welcome, Monique.
Thank you.
Yes. So I should have asked you the name of the city before we came on to make sure I was saying it right.
People pronounce it like that, even from the States. So,
do they?
Akron. Yeah, it's okay. People know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So today is a big day because you and I have been friends online for a long time now, following each other, even actually having dreams about each other the same night, one night, waking up, which was crazy. But it's the light, you and me definitely connected on a spiritual level of energy, which has been absolutely amazing, where we truly, I know I truly appreciate who you are and the things I've been following with your background and your knowledge on how you truly help people today is a beautiful and amazing gift that you have that you share with the world. And yeah, so talking about today, sharing about your past challenges that you've had in your life, with the feelings and emotions that you've went through, your teenage years as well, what you've been through. And then, of course, part of my show that I do is we've overcome it, and now we live a successful life because we overcame these challenges that we once had. Mm-hmm. So if you'd like to share about your life and your challenges that you had, you can go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm just going to kind of start talking about my childhood, the issues that I was experiencing, and then how they developed in childhood and how I lived with them growing into adulthood, and then my healing journey. We can stop in between there if anyone has questions or anything like that. Okay. And then if I say anything that sparks a question on your end as well, then ask it, because I always do this in my workshops. I always invite people to ask questions that come up because they're coming up for a reason. So same thing with anyone listening now or in the future. If there's questions, don't hesitate to chime in and ask. So yes, like Jeffrey said, my name is Monique. I've grown up in Akron and lived a few other places, but right now this is where I call home. And what you can't see right now is that I am 5'9". So I know that the US uses, do we use the metric system and everyone else uses?
I think you use centimeters, right? Do you use centimeters?
Yeah. Yes. And so clearly I know much better.
That's fine.
But I don't know how, it's like, so 5'9". Yeah. So I'm 5'9". I've been this height since I want to say 11. I was about 5'7" when I was 11. So I grew a little bit in high school. Oh, wow. I'm a twin, so there's two of me. All of this is relevant. We have red hair. Before it was cool to have red hair. We have freckles. When you're kids, having freckles is like having it painted on your face. Make fun of me.
Especially summertime.
Yes. And we got sunburn in the summertime. Yeah. We both hit puberty at a young age. So we were more developed than a lot of people around us. And now looking back, it doesn't seem like a big deal. But going through that, it was awful. And so in the ages of 0 to 7 years old, our subconscious mind is very active, and whatever is being told to us, we take on as truth, regardless how true it is or not. So we could just hear something around us, and then we're taking that on as, oh, this is my identity. If someone calls us a name, even though they're joking, the subconscious mind does not know the differentiate between what a joke is and what isn't. And so it just takes everything as truth. So going back to being a child, our classmates throughout school were a lot smaller than us because we hit puberty in our growth spurts. and they were really mean. And so I grew up with the identity of being bigger than everyone, bigger and ugly. And there's two of me. We were called like Twin Towers and Amazon and stuff when we were kids. So we like took that on as our own identity. And there were both of us. So we're like, oh my gosh. So then we were like embarrassed to even be twins. And it was really hard being a kid. And so I, as a child, also had, well, first, I have healed myself from asthma, allergies, eczema, or eczema. I have healed myself from depression, anxiety, bulimia, and binge eating, the whole bulimia, binge, purge, anorexia, disordered eating cycle. And then I've also lost around 30 pounds in the last 2 years without counting any calories or any crazy diet shit like that. Yeah. And so when I was younger, I was diagnosed with asthma when I was about 8 years old. My parents divorced when I was 5. And so me and my sister, being 5 years old, even though it's not our fault, we think it's our fault. Kids don't know what the difference between true and false, or what their fault and what isn't their fault is. Whatever they know is that they're involved. Therefore, we're very egocentric at a young age. In the developmental years, we're very egocentric. So we think everything is about us. And so we took that on as that being our fault. And so then growing up in a split parent household and having kids at school tell us how big and ugly we were and all of this stuff, I was growing into teenagehood with this identity that I was at fault for certain things that I clearly had nothing to do with, but I didn't know that I was really ugly, that I was bigger than everybody else, that I was like a geek. So I like hid my smartness because I was like really good in school. And that I had to be the best. Like I had to overachieve in order to please my parents, because our parents, they talked about our achievements to bond with other people, as a lot of parents do. They talk about their kids' achievements. Yeah. So then we took on these identities as like overachievers, perfectionists. So all of this cycles into, I also had asthma, really bad asthma as a kid. And I was allergic to cats and outside in general. I was just allergic to everything outside.
Hay fever, all that.
Yeah. And I didn't think twice about it, because I also grew up in the 90s. And so everything is like, oh, it's genetic. It's genetic. You just have to live with it. You know, maybe you'll grow out of it one day, but you just have to live with it. Yeah. So in high school, this was when my body image was really, really bad. I was so skinny in high school. And I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I ever think I was fat? But I was so skinny. And that's when I remember thinking the really bad thoughts with food, the anxiety around food, around how much am I eating compared to my friends? How fast am I eating compared to my friends? And that's when all of that started. And so the stress of overachieving in school, the stress of sports, the stress of being a female who wants a boyfriend, and the stress of just beating myself up in my head, because that's when my self-talk became really bad, all contributed to me developing eczema. And so I broke out in a full body rash. I had no idea.
All from stress, hey?
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't know it at the time. And also like diet played a role as well. But looking back, I can see that it was a lot of stress. And so I broke out in like a full body rash. And I played volleyball where you wear spandex shorts and like shirts that are skin tight. And so I had a full body eczema rash during volleyball season. And then from my sophomore year, it was just off and on of breaking out into random rashes and never really knowing what was causing it or how long they would last, just knowing that I needed to take like medicine and whatever, because doctors at first didn't know what it was. And so I think from taking so much medicine, on top of being asthmatic, I was always taking inhalers and had like steroidal inhalers and all the different types of inhalers. When I went to college, then shit just hit the fan. So that's when I then developed bulimia, because my body image was so bad. In college, you're living on campus, you get free reign to the cafeteria, so you can eat whatever you want. So then I developed bulimia, and I just never got out of my head that I was like this big girl who was like bigger than everybody else, who was like the Twin Tower, the Amazon. That like never escaped my mind.
Ever since the childhood, going through that, and the kids saying, "Oh, it's crazy how, you know, we go through these things as children." And I, you know, with myself, the same. I went through a lot of bullying and a lot of just feeling different, and people putting you on a pedestal to be someone, you know. But it truly sticks with us.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and to hear from you as well, that is the same thing you went through, and that's why you had the challenges that you've had. You know, it's really sad that you went through that.
And like the thing is, like in the moment, I thought it was normal. Like I thought all of this stuff was normal, and then there was stuff with my relationship with my parents, which I can get into as I kind of circle back around to that. That I haven't talked about yet, but I just thought that it was like normal, and that like everybody experienced these thoughts. And yes, it's common, but there's a very big difference between what's common and what's normal. And like having these thoughts are not. They shouldn't even be common, but they are not normal. And so when I then like just having this identity of who I was as like this big person and undesirable, and I was very insecure, had very low, I didn't value myself, very low amount of confidence. And I just got so depressed because I was like living this life of this person who I wasn't, trying to please everyone around me because everyone was like always putting their joy into like my achievements. And so it put a lot of pressure on me. And so I was just really depressed, and then developed severe anxiety around food and around going out to like public places with food. And
did that turn into an addiction for you as well then? Did you find that you were addicted to it? That was your form of addiction?
And I never really expressed my emotions because I was always told to be strong, like be the strong one. So when my parents divorced, my dad, his friends would always tell us, like, you girls got to take care of your dad. You're all he has. Like, you have to take care of your dad. You have to take care of your dad. Hearing that over and over and over again. And he was an alcoholic when we were younger. So we would always hear about like his story with the very, very, very poor relationship with his father, and how his father was just basically like not a good father. And so then we felt guilty. We're empaths. So we took that on as like our own. And so we felt guilty for that. So then we took on this identity of we have to be strong. I have to be strong for other people. And then with my mom, when she divorced, she would just date. She's trying to find love. I don't blame her now. But as a kid, I see that as you're choosing men over me. And that developed an identity of I'm not worthy. I'm not enough. I don't matter. Because our entire life, like me and my sister growing up, it was just like my mom dating guy after guy, and like long-term relationship into like a couple dates with another guy into another long-term relationship. It seemed like this whole cycle our entire life. And we never felt like we mattered. I never felt like I mattered at all. So that's why I kind of turned to sports and then like excelling in school, because like they would always talk about that, like as our accomplishments, just as they were proud of that. So that's how I felt worth. That's why I felt worthy. If I wasn't getting straight A's, I wasn't worthy. And I would have mental breakdowns in school when I didn't get good grades, which some people might seem that is silly, but that was like my anxiety was if I didn't do good in school, I didn't receive love at home. I didn't receive attention at home because I wasn't good enough to get attention over whatever guy my mom was dating, or my dad, when like he would come to our like sporting events, or he would come to our academic stuff sober. So it was like, so those were the things that we could bond with. And so when all of that came to an accumulation in college, I still had no idea what was going on, but I just knew like I was so depressed. I was so anxious. I was hardcore bulimic. I was highly asthmatic. I was still breaking out in bouts of eczema. I was popping allergy pills like they were Tic Tacs because I would get rashes in like the spring and the fall on my body from it.
And then well, with what you're saying, you've already you mentioned one thing, but not feeling our feelings and emotions, you know, we didn't know how to do any of this stuff. And there's
Yes.
millions of people that still don't, and they still suffer because they don't know how to feel their emotions because you're holding it in. So you're doing all these other things trying to cover up on not feeling your emotions and feelings.
Yes, definitely. And I'm glad that you just said that, because that's exactly where I was going. Is I didn't even know that that's what I was doing. I didn't know that I was turning to food to not feel my emotions.
Yeah.
At first, it was like just jumping into like really unhealthy relationships with men who didn't value me to feel valued. And then once I kind of realized, like, actually, no, I didn't realize that for a while. So I was still doing that. But I was also turning to food. So because when you think about it, the act of eating, you're literally shoving down things, like things are coming into your body. So it's keeping other things from coming up, like those emotions that you want to feel.
Yeah.
Or that you don't want to feel, essentially.
Yeah.
And so, but then you feel so out of control from eating and eating and eating that then you want to purge to gain the control back. So that was my experience. And I didn't realize that I had all of these emotions that I wasn't feeling until it just got so bad that I was just like so overwhelmed. And then I went on my healing journey. But before I got to my healing journey, I had gained so much weight, and I was like, what is going on? Like, I'm supposed to be the health person. I'm supposed to like be doing all of this stuff. And it like wasn't working because I was my own worst enemy in my head.
Yes.
And that's why I know, like, it doesn't matter what information's out there. You have to turn inward in order to actually heal. Like any diet, any medicine that you take, even if it's an inhaler for asthma, like all of these things are masking the bigger issue. Yeah. And when you can address the bigger issue, the chronic condition will go away on its own, because the body is meant to thrive in a state of health. Yeah. And we're just not taught that. Yeah. And we're not taught how to work with it on that level.
It's cool that you mentioned that, because just with myself, and I shared before, and I know you know, with the self-sabotaging with food for 20 years, it was from healing. You know, when we heal, I'm in the best shape I've been in a long time, and naturally too, on top of it, not needing to use other things. But when we start to heal the root of the problem, which comes from within, we heal that first. Everything else outward starts getting healed and transformed.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what I experienced. So if you would want to, I can kind of talk about the layers briefly, talk about like the layers of healing that I experienced.
For sure. Yeah.
Because it was definitely in layers. It did not happen all together. And it was over, my experience was years of doing this from like the first awareness. So the first awareness was when I had graduated my undergrad. I was in my master's program, and I was working I was bartending and then working a corporate job. And so I was like just doing a lot. And that's also a self-sabotaging technique. So if someone's listening to this and they are someone who tries to keep themselves busy or tries to find things to fill time, that is a technique used to avoid spending time with ourselves, to avoid going inward. Yeah. And I was like winning that race. And so I was doing all of these things, and I was just so exhausted and so stressed. And but I started to think like, okay, I was working as a wellness coordinator on a health team at a corporate company. And so I started looking at different diets and exploring different diets, started playing with my diet for a couple of weeks. And I noticed that when I cut out, I did what's called an elimination diet. And this is when you cut out like the 6 major food allergens, and which are like corn, eggs, wheat or gluten, dairy, soy, and yeast. And then some people will cut out what's called nightshades. So I cut those out for 2 weeks, and my asthma symptoms just basically dissipated. They just totally went away. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting.
A little bit.
And so after that experience, I lost a few pounds too. Now looking back, it was just from inflammation. One way that you can tell that you're really inflamed is if your under eyes, or when you wake up, right above your eyes or your under eyes are puffy. That tells you that there's chronic inflammation in your body. Or if your fingers get puffy in the morning. And so and there's other ways to tell too, but those are two common ways.
Yeah.
So I played with that for a few weeks, and then a few weeks turned into a few months, and my asthma symptoms basically went away. 90% went away. I still had to keep an inhaler with me just in case, but 90% asthma symptoms went away.
Wow.
So with that, the allergies also, they didn't fully go away, but they definitely diminished a lot. So then I was like, okay, cool. I've gotten rid of asthma. I'm working on allergies. My eczema is kind of controlled. I would still get breakouts in the winter, like when I was really stressed, but I'm still extremely depressed. I'm in the height of my bulimia. I'm still binging. I am still anxious around food, and I've lost weight, but I don't see, like, I'm so scared of gaining weight. Like, I'm so paranoid of it that I started to gain it. And so
stress for sure. Yes.
Yeah. And so this was about within like a 7 to 8 month period.
Yeah.
So then I stayed within the company, but I switched positions and moved to a branch of the company as like the first wellness coach there. And that position came with so much stress, and your environment affects you a lot. The environment that I was working in was very negative.
Yes.
And I didn't know this at the time.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who dreads going in to whatever job you have, or by the time you leave, you're just utterly exhausted, or you're very irritable when you're there, those are telltale signs that the environment that you're in is very negative, and you need to get out.
And then typically too, when people hate their job, like you said, they're irritable, had a horrible day. When they go home to their family, they bring that energy that they had ruining their family life at home because of what they're going through all day.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And we don't realize, like, everything is an energetic exchange. And like, even just walking by someone and smiling at them, like, that's an energetic exchange. So think if you're sitting somewhere for 6 to 8 hours a day, how much energy you are exchanging with that space, with the people in that space, and then with the situations that are taking place within that space. That's a lot of energy exchanging and expenditure. And we're not taught how to, like, give away, or how to get the energy back that we're giving away, and also how to allow a release to what isn't ours. So to give away that which is not ours, and to call back that which is. We're not taught that. But we can talk more about that next week when we talk about this. So just a note for people to keep in mind, like, if you're there and you're just utterly miserable, like, and irritable and anxious or angry, then something might be up with the environment or someone in that environment. So just be aware. And then after that, you can, like, start taking necessary steps to do whatever you feel is right. But mine, I was so depressed that I would make myself sick. I would literally wake up and think, oh, I do not want to go into work. And I would make myself physically ill to give me a reason to call off. So when I called my boss, my voice would sound so awful that, like, obviously he had to believe me. I would physically make myself sick so I wouldn't have to go.
I think we've all done that at some point, where it's like, before you call work, because I've done it a lot of calling work sick because of the depression that I was going through as well. Mm-hmm. You just don't want to leave your bed. You don't want to go anywhere. It's truly, it's really sad for people to go through it, and only people that have gotten to that point of doing those things will understand. Mm-hmm. But it's practicing your voice before you call a couple times, making sure you sound a certain way. But our mental health and the challenges we go through are that severe that it's truly sad on what we go through. But so how did you overcome that for yourself with the depression part? Yeah,
so that part. So in 2016, the beginning of 2016 was when I kind of, like, swelled in the sorrows of my depression, and it was really, really bad. And that's also when I started turning to food even more, because I didn't know how to feel my feelings. I didn't know what that even meant. All I knew is, like, I knew how to yell, I knew how to cry. And I was also, at that point in my life, I was drinking so much that I thought I was going to become an alcoholic, because I didn't know how to feel my feelings. I had lost one of my best friends. And so I didn't know how to process that. And that just added to the depression that I was experiencing. And so it was like all of these emotions that were flooding my body, I had no idea what to do with other than to like get mad at someone or yell or cry because I was so stressed out. And then it just got to a point that lasted from February of 2016 until October. And what happened was in the middle of September, this is why I always recommend people to like ask for signs, because in the middle of September, I just started putting out there like, universe, God, whatever the heck is out there, like I need help. I need help in a really big way, because it was just, I've had bouts of suicidal thoughts, but like they were starting to come back, and I'm just like, I'm 25 years old. I cannot be living this life for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And so I put it out there that I needed help. And within that week, I was randomly listening to a podcast, heard about a retreat.
Randomly? Yeah.
Yeah. And I had just like found this podcast. I was like, oh, this interview sounds so interesting. So I listened to it. The woman was talking about what she was marketing for her, one of her emotional healing retreats in Costa Rica. And I listened to her story of her healing journey and like the 11 years that she had spent on herself. She was co-facilitating the retreat with an energy healer. I didn't know what any of this stuff was at that point in time. I'd never heard the term emotional healing. I didn't know what an energy healer was. I didn't know what any of this stuff. I didn't know what an empath was. And this was in 2016. This wasn't that long ago. And so I was like, all right, sign me up. I'm going. So in October, I went to Costa Rica for 8 days, and I realized that I was holding on to so much anger, frustration, sadness from my childhood, from my relationship with my mom, from not getting the attention that I wanted from her as a young child, from feeling like she didn't put our needs first, and feeling like I just felt very violated by her in some ways that I didn't even know that what was going on. I went there thinking, oh, I'm going to heal from the death of my friend, and I'm going to do all this stuff. And that stuff didn't even come up. It was like all of this stuff that happened when I was 4 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. And I did my very first anger release. I didn't know what that was until I went there. And now I walk all my clients through them. And it was just a lot of internal dialogue, a lot of like intrinsic review of, what have I been carrying with me for the last 20 years? And why has this never come up before? And why are more people not talking about this? And no wonder I always feel so much like heightened emotions, whether it be an upper or a downer when I'm around certain people, because I learned that I'm an empath and like what an empath is, and how over 20% of the population is an empath, and even more are highly sensitive people. And that just means you have a heightened nervous system. And so it was learning to work with that. And so it's a lot of emotional releasing. Yes. And when I did that, I felt, so I carried all of the anger in my heart, as we carry most anger that we carry, excuse me, is in the heart, or in our root chakra center, which is like right at the base of our spine. And so when you think about it, what does asthma affect? Your lungs. Your lungs are where? Near your heart, in your heart center. So when you can clear that energy from that energy center, and if anyone's hearing the word energy center and getting freaked out, energy centers just correspond with bundles of nerves in the body. So they're just heightened like electromagnetic frequencies because of the bundles of nerves that are positioned in different parts of the body. So I released all of this anger. I felt like a completely different person. And I came back, and I had like the vacation hangover, that you get like when you come back from like a really awesome place. I'm so thankful that
I haven't done that yet. 42 soon.
You have to experience it.
Yeah. But what were your, when you were going through that, because I've done it as well. And, like you, the transition for myself overcoming the depression and anxiety and all that stuff, it's because we went through this process. The tools I have and how I came over, they're different, that I offer people that are like me. With you, the same thing, even though you and I are so much alike, the energy, the offerings on how you transformed yourself, it's the process that you've went through yourself to transform your life, right? And now you just give back to the other people who are looking to go through the same transformation. But your feelings and emotions, how are you feeling at that time, because it was new for you to bring up all of this past, you know, all the trauma and the things you went through as a child. So how was that for you at that time to be bringing that stuff back up?
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Great question. Thanks for asking it. So resistance. I was feeling a lot of resistance. I didn't want to go there. I was scared. I was scared because I only knew who I was as I was operating from that place. Does that make sense? So like, I only knew who the Monique was that was operating from this place of depression and anxiety and overwhelm and all of the chronic illnesses that I was then identifying with. So I went to feeling these energies and these emotions and moving them through my body because I didn't know how. I didn't know what that meant. I was very confused. Yep. I felt like I was alone. Like no one understood what I was going through. I felt very isolated. I isolated myself from a lot of my friends and family. And I just felt like it was never going to get better. Like I felt like I didn't know if I would ever feel normal again. I remember once, this was before I went to Costa Rica, but I remember once I don't even remember what led to it, but I was home alone and I had just, I don't know, I think I was like on a dating app. So I was like on a dating app and I was like, I'd gone out with a couple people and I think I got ghosted by one of them and it like really upset me. So I just binged on like an entire bag of walnuts. Like it sounds so stupid, but I went to the store and bought an entire bag of walnuts. The last time I told the story, I like cracked up laughing because it's just it sounds so silly now. But I went to the store and just like, before I even got home, I'd eaten half the bag. I ate the rest of the bag when I was there. And like that was a pretty big bag of walnuts. And so I had such a bad stomach ache. So then I immediately went to the bathroom and I just like puked everything up. I puked it up until I was puking up other food that I hadn't eaten for hours. And I just remember looking at myself in the mirror. My face was so red. I was like tearing up because I was just like so disgusted with myself. And I just like looked in the mirror, remember telling myself like, you are so disgusting. Are you ever going to be able to live a normal life? Like, are you ever going to be able to be normal around food? Are you ever going to be able to be normal, just be normal around people? And because I was isolating myself because I was so embarrassed and ashamed of like how much I was eating because people were seeing me as like the health person. Yeah. And because I was a wellness coach. Yeah. And so
like wearing a mask, we go out wearing a mask. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And like the next day at the gym, I remember running extra on the treadmill, looking at myself in the mirror the entire time, just telling myself like, you're disgusting. You're going to work all of this off. You're not eating for the rest of the day. Like what did you do to yourself? And just like picking myself apart in the mirror when I was on the treadmill. And it was I think that's the last time I did it. Cause it was at that time that I was just like, fuck, something's got to change. Like, how I'm talking to myself and what I'm doing isn't working. And it was this vicious cycle of like me being my worst enemy because the thoughts in my head, I was believing them.
Always are.
And
our worst enemies.
Yeah. And like, even when I would hang out with people, I couldn't wait until I was by myself so I could like go binge food. And that was my way of like protecting my energy because and I'm like a natural introvert too. And so like being around people is very exhausting. And so like to protect my energy or whatever, I was just like, I could not wait to be by myself to like just eat so much fucking food. And it was just, and then just purge it all up. And I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was doing to my body. I knew how bad it was for my body, but it didn't stop me because it's just like the anxious thoughts of like, get this food out of your body as fast as possible.
Taking like, your mind away from the feelings and emotions that you don't want to feel. It's all those old habits of,
And I just, after doing that for that last time, I was just like, oh my gosh, something has to change. And so that's when I like went on this retreat and like feeling all the resistance and all of the emotions around feeling emotions, like all of just the fear and the feeling scared and feeling alone and feeling wrong for having emotions.
And you know what, when you're going through this phase of what you went through or, you know, the scenario, this is something new that you've never done before, right? So it's the unknown of actually, you know, this is why a lot of people don't go through and follow through with completing their healing process. It's because they're scared of all of these things. But you see, as well as I do, after when we complete the healing process of getting it all out, of the freedom now that you have in your life and of your mind, body, and soul, the freedom of releasing all those stored up emotions and feelings that you've had because you were afraid to get out,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Feeling your feelings is like the most liberating thing that you can do. And it sounds silly, but like we're not taught how to do it.
Yes.
And we're not taught how to do it in a healthy way.
Yes.
And there's so many sayings around like how feeling feelings is like a weakness. Like,
I know,
don't be a pussy or be a man, or just like all these ridiculous sayings that people adopt. And you don't realize how detrimental that is for a 6-year-old to hear that. Like, be a man, men are strong. Little boys don't cry, or even a little girl, like be a strong girl, set a good example.
And
like,
that's why we have we have the anxiety and depression for the top two. It's because we don't know how to feel our emotions and feelings, because we're told not to feel those feelings, or we're told not to cry. We're told not to be angry, as children. So we grow up with having anxiety and depression as the top two. And then other addictions like you had. My addictions were different than yours, but it doesn't matter because it still stems from the same emotional, the emotions we don't want to deal with and feel.
Yeah.
Right. With your addiction.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like that's what an addiction is. It's just, it is severe wounding, and you're just finding an outlet for that severe wounding instead of actually feeling the emotions associated with it. Yeah. And it's just people find that outlet in different ways, but it's all looking for the same feeling. And that's just like happiness or peace or content. But you never find it in the addiction, because that's not the core problem. That's not the cause. It's just a Band-Aid.
Yeah. It's exactly. It's like taking anything for physical pain, you're masking the real root cause, like your asthma, your inhaler. Yes, they serve a purpose, for when they're needed, but until you start working on the root cause, whether it's emotional or physical pain, certain things you're going through, there's a root issue that we need to deal with. And like yourself being an energy healer, myself being a light worker using energy, divine light with energy to heal, we have actual natural ways of healing people, through, and that's how you've healed yourself as well, is through the energy healings that you've done with yourself now.
Yeah. Emotional healing coupled with energy healing was life-changing for me. And without it, I would not be who I am now. Even people who knew me in 2016, they're like, you're a totally different person. And I mean, I quit my job when I got back from that retreat. I know. As soon as I got back from the retreat, I had no backup plan. I just knew I couldn't do this anymore. So I quit my job, and I just started dedicating time to my healing, and I had to isolate myself from people. So it was lonely at times, but now doing the work that I do, it's so rewarding. And to be able to, this is going to sound silly, but you'll get it to some people. And to be able to go to the grocery store and not open a bag and eat half of whatever snack I got before I got home. I know
did that today with cookies.
sometimes I'll do it if I'm hungry, if I'm just oh, I've been really wanting this chocolate, I'm just going to eat a piece now. But I used to do it just out of the pure purpose to eat. And or just going to a holiday party or an event, a social event, and being able to eat food to the point where I'm full and being able to stop, not waiting until people walk away so I can hurry up and shovel more into my mouth.
You have control over your life now. Your mind, body, and spirit. You have control over all of that in your life today.
And I wouldn't have that if it wasn't for first addressing and then feeling my emotions. You have to address what you're feeling or what's in your body that wants to be felt. Then you have to give yourself time to feel it and walk through the actual process of feeling it. If you're someone who's always crying, there's a deeper emotion that wants to be felt. Crying is the shallow end of the pool. There, if you keep walking in the pool, you're going to find there's a lot more depth to those tears. So you have to create conversation of okay, where are these tears coming from? What is going on? Like, why am I crying? So typically it has to do with like being rejected or not feeling good enough or just feeling angry. Okay, what made me angry? And then just kind of going into that. And then, all right, is there another feeling that's trying to come up here? Maybe it is anger. And then if it is anger, how can I move it? How can I move this through my body?
And then where is it being stored in your body? From what age and what things you've went through that you haven't dealt with or talked about in your life yet? You know? And it's something we're going to talk about next week. Is our feelings and emotions and subconscious and the traumas that we've went through and how it affects us when we don't deal with it. Because I know a lot of people, I started working on myself when I was 17 with outside help. And I've been doing it off and on I'll be 42 in like a month and a half. So I've been doing this for a long time of dealing with my emotions and talking about my feelings. And that's why I'm so open. I have no problem sharing and being open. But I've dated, and this is not to talk about bad, or it's not to talk bad about anyone, because I love everyone I've dated. But there's a lot that I tried to help along my life path to teach them how important it is to talk about our feelings and emotions of the things we went through, because some of them, they still have addictions of some sort, and it all stems from their childhood, things they went through. And I had one girlfriend I dated a few years back, and we ended up talking again. And she said, you know what, you planted a seed into me. She was one girlfriend I planted the seed into getting outside help for the past issues that she shared and opened up with me to tell me. And she went out and got help. And today, we're friends today. She's on my Facebook. And she's another light that's constantly posting posts to try to help people lift their spirits to be, better. And then it shows when people truly do the work to work on themselves. It's life-changing. It's going to be hard to talk about the things that we've been through in life. It's not easy. But the freedom that we get when we get secrets out that we're holding in, resentments against yourself or against other people, getting these things out where you might have hurt people, when you talk and get all this stuff out, because truly they are learning lessons in our life. And as long as you learn from the past and you learn from those mistakes, it's okay, no matter how bad it is, because we all make mistakes on different levels. It's just how our soul is evolving as we're living through our life. But truly getting out, the trauma and things that you've done to people or what people have done to you, and not sweep them under the rug, it's going to be priceless for the freedom of the weight being taken off of your shoulders. Right. And this as well, because like I said, next week, what are we going to share about next week?
So we're going to talk about the subconscious mind, and we can hop into some ways to start rewiring the subconscious mind to help you heal a little faster. We're talking about the energy body and like just the field and how emotions are energy and why they want to be felt and moved, and what happens when you don't feel those emotions and how they show up in your body, and different ways that they show up, and then how you can work through moving the emotions through your body. And not all of it involves like screaming and crying. So no. Not everyone will have to.
But hey, sometimes some people, if that's their outlet and their tool that they need to overcome something, then so be it. Right? We all have different ways of getting things out. So, I'm super excited because every 2 weeks I have sessions, or I'm going to be doing these podcasts, and this is going to be a back-to-back one. So I'm excited to have you on again next week to talk about this, because people are going to learn from you on how to heal themselves. So it's a very important podcast to be watching next week, because it is going to be life-changing for each person who watches the podcast for next week as well. So I also want to ask as well, let's just one sec here. I had a couple comments. Let's read a couple comments before we go, because I feel bad. Let's see. Candace, let's see. Oh, I would also like to follow you, Monique, on some of your pages. If you could post some of them. Thank you, Candace. And who's this here? Jeanette says, hello.
Hello, Jeanette.
I forgot I had this on the side here. I like this. What is, I can't, it won't show all the Jameses. I'm sorry, James. Oh, here we go. I got bullied all of my childhood and developed an addiction later in life, but I'm clean now for 10 years. That's awesome, James. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention, thanks for the comment, James, is that even like bullying doesn't stop, even in adulthood, it doesn't stop. But one thing I've learned, and I know that you'll agree with this, is that when someone is bullying someone else, it's because they're, one, speaking from insecurities within themselves, or two, there's something in you that's triggering an absence of them, like in them. So for an example, like I could be triggered by another really pretty girl because there's something I see in her that I'm not seeing in myself, which is beauty. Not saying that's the case, but that's what used to be the case for me. So I was very jealous of other people. And then like when someone would make a comment about me, about my weight or my looks or whatever, I'd take that as being bullied, when in reality, like, because I love myself now, I would never say that about anybody else. But if there's something that I'm jealous of in someone else, I used to talk crap about them. I used to bully them in a sense. So like the bully is the one who needs the most emotional work.
Yes,
but
for sure.
Also, they project the most trauma on other people.
Yeah.
And when we can develop that awareness that it's never about you, it's always about them.
Yeah. But try to tell that to children.
Yeah, right? I know.
Because, you know, with the bullies I had when I was younger, you know, I was going to say it's funny, but it's not funny, because when I see them 20 years later, they're still not doing well because they went through some hard shit as well at home, or whatever they went through that they never got no help from. And then they take it out on everyone else being a bully because truly they're suffering. And that's why people bully as well. Steve said depression is a sickness. Most definitely. It's not, it's definitely hard, and a lot of people go through it. And then Cindy, I am also an empath and can relate with you guys. In 2016, I lost my father, who I was super close with, which traumatized me. And I was in a toxic relationship, which did not help me. And so many things I went through in my childhood and teenage years. Now I'm doing much better, but still need to go through therapy. Well, you know what? There's nothing wrong. I'm doing very well in my life. I've been going to therapy off and on all throughout my life, and that's why I am who I am today. If it wasn't for therapy, I'll probably still be going to therapy even in my 60s and 70s. My therapist has a therapist, you know. Yeah. People who really want the change to be the best they can be will reach out for outside help to learn new tools, because you only know what you know. Yes. So when you're getting help,
Sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, to your point, professional athletes still get coached. Like, they're hiring people in the off season to work with them out, to work with them. Yeah. Like, you don't seek help in any way. A coach, a mentor, a therapist, you don't seek help because that shows you're weak. That shows that you're strong and you just want to keep getting better.
Strength.
So, yes, like I coach people. I'm a mentor to people, but I have worked with so many healers, so many coaches, so many mentors. Like, I would not have mental health if I didn't work with these people. I would be a basket case. Yeah. And I think that I think we're shifting out of this stigma, but for a long time, there's a stigma that, like, therapy means you're weak, or therapy means you failed. And no. Therapy means that you have the self-awareness to say, hey, something is up and I don't have the skills right now to deal with it, but I want to learn those skills.
Because
and then you work with someone.
Yes. And then you're going to end up thriving in life. You're going to end up being happy with the decisions you make, leaving a job or whatever it is you need to do. Therapy and removing all that bad energy, or speak Monique for removing that bad energy, or myself with my light work to remove bad energy. Yes. But it's people like us who have overcome it. And there's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people just like us that have went through the trauma that we went through. You know, we went through a horrible stage in our life, and then we overcame it, so that we can give back and to teach people that it's actually a strength to be reaching out for help, because the other people who don't reach out for help, they're suffering, right? Mm-hmm. They're not doing well in life. They're not happy. They're going through shit, and they're going to probably stay in that boat until they
'Cause
find
it's
out
what they know.
that's all they
Yeah.
know. So it's reaching out. That's awesome. New tools.
Yeah. I mean, you cannot support yourself in ways that you've never been supported.
Yes.
Hey, Craig.
Let's see. Okay. Yeah, you're welcome, Cindy. So my last little thingy-mabobber is if you can give people, how do I get the other thing off here? Let's see. 2 tips for, people that are going through the severe challenges that you had with bulimia, depression, anxiety. If you could give 2 tips to help people where they might be stuck now to help them out of that, what would you tell them?
To get yourself in the present moment. When you're experiencing a bout of depression or anxiety, or when you want to just binge on whatever, take a second, tell yourself, you can say like pattern disrupt or something like that. What that does is that activates different neural pathways in your brain. And then just get yourself in the present moment. Utilize all of your senses. Feel your feet on the ground. Smell the air, whatever the scent is. Hear the sounds around you. Look at the colors in the room. Like feel the saliva in your mouth or whatever. So go through the senses and just get present and ask yourself, like, am I safe right now? Am I safe right now? Am I loved right now? Or am I accepted right now? Can you accept yourself right now? So just get into the habit of like getting back into the present moment, and then to remind yourself like, okay, I'm safe right now. And right now is what matters.
Yeah.
And then from there, if there is an emotion that you're feeling, then ride that wave and feel the emotion. So if you are depressed and you're just not feeling, you just feel like you want to cry, then cry. If you're anxious and you feel like you want to yell, yell. If you are going to the kitchen to binge on food, ask, am I actually hungry right now? Or am I feeling something else? If I'm hungry right now, am I really hungry from what I'm about to eat? Or if I'm feeling something else, what am I feeling? And how does it want to be felt? So get present and then talk to yourself, talk to your feelings, get present and talk to your feelings. And then just get in the habit of creating conversation with yourself and know a third one. No, you are not your thoughts. You are an observer of your thoughts. Your thoughts are not you. Your thoughts are not you. You are an observer of your thoughts. You do not have to believe them. You do not have to believe any thought. You can change your thoughts. Thoughts that we think over and over and over again become beliefs. So we just have to retrain our mind, brain rewiring, which we're going to talk about next week, to start thinking different thoughts to help you feel different feelings.
Yeah.
Because it's a cycle.
And it's a hard cycle to break because we've all been a part of it and we've all done it. False beliefs, things we've heard, things we've been through.
Yeah.
And again, it stems from past traumas, and traumas come in many forms,
yes.
right? Which is what you're going to share about next week.
I mean, yeah, and we just scratched the surface on all this stuff. Like there is so much more that we could talk about and how traumas show up in adulthood. Yeah. And like when I use the word trauma too, like, yes, some of us have very intense experiences, but trauma could literally just be not getting the attention that you wanted as a kid. Like that is traumatizing to a child because that sends a signal to your nervous system that you're not loved, which means you're not going to survive in a tribal sense. And that's what our mind is at the age of 6. It's a tribal mind. So it's just a matter of understanding that it doesn't matter how severe or not severe your trauma was. Trauma is still trauma, and you're still allowed to work through it, and you're allowed to thrive, and you can thrive. We're both living proof of that. Like you don't have to live with this diagnosis or a self-diagnosis for the rest of your life if you choose to do the work, because healing is not all butterflies and fairies.
No, but the reward is priceless, and there is I'd spend if I had $100 million, I'd spend 99 million, to feel the feelings that I feel today, to have all that shit out of me from my past, to live the happiness and joy that I have in my life today. There is no dollar sign that can, for that. So that is on, what's the date here? So today is the 29th. So that would be on the 5th of January when we're back. And like I said, that will be for healings. If you enjoyed what we talked about, or you know someone more so who is suffering, please share the video, because it's just by a click of a button to share it. You can be saving someone's life or changing someone's life that you know, as well as if you know someone or you're watching and you're a light worker or someone who's been through trauma in their past, man or woman. I'm going to try to I have a man or woman, or a man and woman each month. Every second week is when I typically do this, share. So if there's a man or a woman that you know out there who has been through a lot of trauma, overcame it, and want to share about their life on giving back, this is what I'm doing these podcasts for, to reach out and connect with different people. And yeah, so I really enjoyed today. It was great having you on after a couple of years of knowing each other and seeing you as the beautiful success that you are in your life with your business, and then going across the banner as well, your name, what you do, and then you have your webpage for people as well, going across on that banner.
Find me here on Facebook, Monique Hayes, Energy Healer. I think that's the name of my business page. Or on Instagram. I'm always on Instagram too.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Okay. So thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for the people who joined. If anyone leaves a comment even after watching the replay, we will get back to you in any way, shape, or form to help you out, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to help people heal. So thank you, Monique, again. I can't wait for next weekend for you to share, and we'll talk again then.